Hello and welcome to the UConn Daily Podcast. This is Aman Kidwai, joined by John Silver, here to talk the latest on UConn men's hoops and some very exciting developments with the women's basketball team as well. We'll start with the men's team. Again, a 1-1 week this past week, John. They lost to St. John's in Madison Square Garden. They come back on Wednesday, beat Georgetown in a game where once again they face an early deficit, but this time they come back. My opinion, it's about the most complete game we've seen from them all season.
Mhm.
35 or so minutes of being pretty good. Uh, how are you feeling about the team after what we've seen this past week?
Uh, it's a long ways to go. I think we've seen the bottom of what they are. I don't think there's another level they can go lower. It was also tough games too. I'm not talking about just the St. John's game, but that Seton Hall loss is really going to hurt them. When you look at seeding, it was inexplicable. Um, I liked the offense yesterday. Finally, we got offense. They got pace. They kind of look like UConn, like you would expect. And the UConn from earlier in the year, even when they lost in Maui when they had that 9 game winning streak, they're moving the ball. They have other people scoring. I mean, they were 9 of 24 from three, which is better than what they're doing. Still concerned with Alex Carabin's outside shooting. He's 1 for 5. He does other stuff though. They got inside and outside. I worry about, of course, still worry about the point guard play. It looks like Hassan Diarra. They put some masking tape on him, and away you're going. So that's good. Um, I worry. Where are they? So we'll see. We'll see against Providence, right? So they're 19-9. I think run the table to end the regular season. Go into the Big East tournament on like a 5 game winning streak. Then I might get excited again. But if they struggle against Providence or they lose to a Seton Hall again, gosh, or lose to even Marquette. They beat Marquette on the road, beat them at home now. Barring that, I don't think it's something to get too excited. I'm interested to see them, but I have no expectation that we're in for a long March run.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean the results of of this past week for me are basically it's the same. It's the same relative expectations. I didn't think the St. John's game would be that comprehensive of a beating, but it was. And so, okay, fine. That kind of sands down any potential like really high ceiling maybe you thought this team could have to make, like you're saying, a deep run. Maybe you've cut down that possibility. This Georgetown win, while nice, I think it's good that they played as consistent as they have.
Yeah.
I think for Terrace Reed to put together two good halves is some of the most encouraging signs we have seen for this team all season. They have a bit of a formula working. Like you said, inside out. McNeely and Ball, really strong outside shooters, really good playmakers in general, really good just overall basketball players. And then with Reed and the combo of Reed and Johnson, if both are going, you
Mm-hmm.
have the potential to be something dangerous. They even did a solid enough job on rebounding and holding their own in the low post against St. John's, I felt, holding their own against a team that's really strong there. But uh, yeah, some things are working there. Diarra, like you said, just got to give him so much credit for the way he's toughing it out and giving the team something that they desperately
Yeah.
need, which is just experience and smart play from that position, which is the same thing basically that they're getting from Caravan at this point with his shot not falling. I mean, a couple of those, rimming out in the Georgetown game. It's really tough scenes, but yeah, he's got to figure out that other way to get involved. We've been saying that stuff forever. So yeah,
Mm.
the team is the same as it was. Georgetown's a bit injured, so I really don't want
Yeah.
to read too much into this past successful performance. But what I do think is good is that they've maintained their composure. They are not letting this season descend into the darkness, spiral down
Yeah.
to something where people are really quitting and they lose games that they shouldn't. I don't think that's going
Mhm.
to happen. And so, what I mean by that is they've got this game against Providence on Saturday. Don't lose that game. You've got this game against Seton Hall to end the season. Do not lose that game. Those are, you absolutely have to just win those now. And then, Marquette, you're hosting in Gamble. That's a big
Or
game.
win it.
You got to just say win it. Uh, would be very, very good for your overall thing to win it, or again, not get punked, which is, something that maybe is a slight concern against the better teams. Is Marquette one of those better teams? Right now, they're ahead of UConn in the standings. UConn got the win at Marquette, but I don't think anyone coming out of that game would say that UConn handily outplayed Marquette or has some large, advantages over that team. Marquette's a solid squad, even if they're not at their most powerful right now. So I think, yeah, UConn has a ton to play for still. They've got a good shot at landing the 3 seed in the Big East tournament. That
Mhm.
means you can have a favorable matchup to win your first game. If you're playing 2 seeded Creighton in the next round, that's that's not a bad run, bad ride to make a little noise before trying to set yourself up for something. But um, yeah, I'm excited to see again what we get from the rest of Liam McNeely. His games at UConn are numbered uh, because he clearly is good enough to go into the NBA draft. I don't think there's any, you know, reality to the dream that he would stay for another year. He's, enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy this rest of this time and, just appreciate what is happening with Diarra, the development of Ball, and the fact that some other guys, still have a shot to make that mark for
Mhm.
themselves over the course of the rest of this season.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm McNeely. I know there's always a penchant for like oh, he can come back. He can be an All-American next year. Now, I will say there's a greater chance that he'd come back with the way the current framework is. Like I'd say there was 0% chance that a player like McNeely would come back. So I mean, if he doesn't like, I think he's a lottery pick. But if he gets to the lottery process and they say you're like the 20th pick, or you're not getting those guarantees in the top 15, I could see him pulling a let me come back, be an All American, be a surefire top 10 the next year. I'm not expecting that though because like I said, as an NBA junkie as myself, I see an NBA starter there. I see somebody who's going to be a starter in the NBA eventually. And I think when you do that, he just does too much on the court, and he has good size and shooting and skill that a team in the top 10 will take him. I think at 8, 9, I don't think he's a franchise changer, but I think he could be a very good number two, a good number two, a very very good number three on your team, and you need that in the NBA, especially. Spurs would be a perfect example. I know they have Castle, so they're going to become UConn Southwest, but when you look at what they're doing, they have Fox, Castle, say Wembanyama. They could use a swing small forward, power forward type player who could shoot, pass, whatever. Like those are the kind of things you'll see. The teams you'll see him. That's kind of like a perfect place for him. So for a team where he can step in as a starter, maybe in a year or two. At the NBA level, and he could become a contributor next year. I think he's ready to play in the NBA. So we'll see, but you never know. Maybe there's a crazy billionaire who hit the Powerball at UConn and wants to give him like a $5 million NIL deal or something. So there's always that case. So they'll do that. I don't think there's room for him though. Like they have 4 All-American or 3 McDonald's All-Americans coming in, or 4. I don't know. However they work it. I actually think Carabin probably is more likely to return than not if he wants to. If he feels like he can get better, I don't know. That's going to be interesting because I'd say if he had the year we thought he was going to have, he'd probably go into the draft. But now, you might see him for another year, and you know what? That's really good for the team in the future because I think he's a good player at the college level, and he might have something to prove. So we'll see. That's stuff for end of the year. Right now, I'd like to see the team's offense get back to what it was. That's what I did like to see the ball go through the basket. Them not look like some kind of zombie team. they can play slow. I know there's some people who think that they're not good enough ball handling, that they have to do that, but I just feel like that they need to get into their offense quicker. To because they run such good offense when they run it, but they can't be under the gun on the shot clock. So let's see. Win against Providence, win against Marquette. Then you got me back. You kind of got me looking again because I like to see them as the 3 seed in the Big East tournament.
The idea of McNeely getting drafted by the Spurs would be so cool. I think, and then just to the point of the possibility of staying, I just want to say, even if someone comes through with an NIL deal to keep him, you got to go on, right? This is the most,
Yeah.
maybe my most coach brained, take, but you
Mm.
got to play that highest level of competition possible when that's what you're going for. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I mean, I think it's very clear he's gone. Caravan, it's interesting. I think there's more of a concern about logjam at positions and what that might mean if he's to stay. I think for slightly different reasons, it might be time for him to move on no matter what. Either kind of like Adama Sanogo, just hey man, go on and be a pro now. It's your time. He's going to get his degree.
Mhm.
It might just be the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think with UConn right now and the team the rest of this season, they still have other guys who can meet their potential, and we still are seeing some signs of it, if not all of it. So again, for Reed, that's a big breakthrough that just occurred in this Wednesday game against Villanova. But someone like Jalen Stewart,
Mhm.
Jaden Ross, these are guys who uh, still it could happen for, and who still are
Yeah.
showing some things. I know it hasn't been consistent. I know there's been some mistakes, uh, but we've also seen the emergence of Ahmad Noel. So the St. John's game, once Hassan Diarra got his second foul, Noel was the guy who came in for him in the game there. He played 8 minutes in that one and 6 minutes in the Georgetown game, which I know doesn't sound like much, but
Mhm.
that's two huge nights for Ahmad Noel. So we've been seeing a little bit more of him. He brings an interesting dynamic to the team. It's going to take him time to develop at that position, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's some things happening still here for this team
Yeah.
that can still happen.
Yeah, Jalen Stewart perplexes me because you can see the talent, you can see the shot making talent and the athleticism, but he's missing that motor end of it. He's kind of just a deliberate, very like a classy basketball player. Like he kind of scores and you don't notice, right? I like to see him a little more energetic and explosive. I think he has it in him. Ross is the opposite. Ross looks like a really active basketball player. He just doesn't have the shooting, dribbling, passing. He just has the basketball skill of, say, a Jalen Stewart. So, if you can cross them and put them together, we'll see what you get there. And Stewart's inconsistency when Carabin or McNeely are not shooting well, they need points from Stewart. And he could score. He just doesn't always make an impact on the game when he's in. Part of that's youth. He didn't play a lot last year. This year, he gets minutes. Sometimes he gets a lot of minutes. Sometimes he doesn't get any. I want to see him aggressive, really aggressive. I think that the team's better when he's a threat. Uh, as far as Noel, I mean, somebody has to play point guard besides Diarra. I'd say you can't have even Diarra with 35 more minutes. I mean, imagine playing Diarra with his knee back to back to back, like 3 straight games in the Big East tournament. I mean, they'll have to take him, walk him out in a wheelchair. That hurts. His knee hurts. Anybody who's had tendonitis knows that the best thing to do is rest. He needs ice. He, I think Noel's shown enough that I want to see more. He doesn't have my confidence yet. A little shaky. He can handle the ball, but he's still a little shaky, slow with making the plays. That comes because he hasn't played much this year. But at least he can get by his player, and that's something Mahaney can't do. Um, I worry about it. But if we're only worried about the backup point guard, that's great. I just, I think they're asking Diarra to play 40 minutes, play defense, right, and not turn over the ball. And because Solo Ball is not a great ball handler, and he's a terrific offensive player, but he's not a great dribbler, right? And he's not a great passer. I mean, he's a shooter, he's a scorer. I mean, that's what he does, and that's the most important skill in basketball, to put the ball in the basket. So I'm not criticizing that he's saying he can get better at that, but by having only Diarra as your guy who can break somebody down off the dribble. I mean, McNeely he could play point forward, but as we saw against Georgetown, McNeely is, not Georgetown, against St. John's. McNeely, even when he gets by guys, I mean, St. John's that's a pro basketball team. Those guys are all 25. I mean, like, I don't think people realize how old some of these teams are. Like, and that's okay. Like, because UConn was old. They had Tristan Newton last year. Was like he was old. And these guys are men. Like, when I look at St. John's, that's a man's basketball team. There are no young players on that team. Like, those guys are it looks like a European a basketball team size wise. So, that's going to work at this level. I mean, those guys are strong. I mean, they're going against UConn's sophomores, 19-year-olds, and it's men against boys. But that's the nature of college basketball in this day and age. I think the COVID year is done, but players can go. There's NIL. You're not going to go play pro. You're going to come. You're going to transfer in. The 25-year-old. I think the 25-year-old men's college basketball players here to stay.
That's an interesting development to keep an eye on, especially at St. John's, where Rick Pitino has said he's not recruiting high school players. So we'll see how that goes for him eventually. But it works when your team has nothing to begin with. But how do you keep that sustainably? You can't buy a roster every season. I don't think that's the right sustainable approach for the future. I also don't think he plans to stay there for very long. But yeah, with Mahaney and the point guard situation in general, I think it's promising that they're putting Noel out there, getting him this development opportunity. And even though it's been light action for Mahaney these last two games, 4 minutes against St. John's, did not play against Georgetown. They're still going to need him. They're still going to need him at some point in the future. Like you said, Big East tournament, NCAA tournament, you've got a smaller team, you've got a certain kind of matchup, or you just Hassan Diarra's knees, like you're saying, not able to go back-to-back nights. He's going to have to find a way to give solid minutes here. I still, back to an earlier point, you go with the team that you have, right? That you don't have a street free agent that you can bring in right now. And I think you have to be encouraged by something like Terrace Reed's development, which took some time. Recognize that this team had some snags in its development over the course of even this season, and that maybe there are some late arriving developments to be had, whether it's Mahaney or a different kind of emergence from one of the sophomores, or even someone like Caravan now rounding into a different kind of form. But that one maybe is a little bit more penned in ink in terms of what Caravan's contributing.
Yeah, with Mahaney, I'd be tempted to give him another shot. Maybe off ball, he has to make threes. They went in a year with Mahaney as the first guard, Ball, McNeely, and Caravan. And those four are all 3-point shooters. So you had 4 3-point shooters with a guy in the middle. Now they have to overplay Diarra, so you lose the shooting there. I mean, I think Diarra's like at 27% from 3, right? So you lose it there. Caravan's been off for about a month. I mean, not even close. So now you have Ball and McNeely, and that kind of, when you don't have 4 shooters out there, their kind of offense doesn't work, because then they're able to stop the penetration, and then you end up with contested threes, or the spacing isn't there like it was when UConn had like the Cam Spencer and Tristan Newton, and Caravan was out there with that. So I think they need to really get Caravan. I need to see like a 4 3-pointer game again. Another one, maybe put another string in of like maybe 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 8 from 3. I like to see that from Karaman. And if Mahaney plays, get in the corner, take the easy three. Don't take the one off the dribble. Just get open and shoot it. A nice little spot up, a set shot. I think they really need that because that will open up Reed inside. That will open up McNeely dribbling. Right now, they're taking. I mean, if you had to take, I know it drives a lot of old timers crazy because the threes they're taking are more NBA distance than they are college, right? Like not all the threes are 20 feet 6 inches. They're shooting them from 22 feet, 23 feet. Might not be the NBA three perfect, but like Caravan, he doesn't. The line is just a suggestion for him. He'll take it from 20 something feet. He doesn't have to be on the shot, and that a lot of that's just the way basketball's going. If you're open, you rather take an open 23-footer than a contested 20-footer, right? So they need to get hot though. They can't do no more 6 of 20s from threes, or they're going to get knocked out. They're not like they were really good against Georgetown in the paint, but you can't. You have to win from three in college basketball and NBA basketball these days. People are taking so many of them. It's the great equalizer. It's the most important shot in basketball.
Yep. They have still some to clean up, and Hurley mentioned that in terms of some of the coaching, he's loosened up a little bit. He's a little less inclined to be demanding that they run, the playbook and the plays, and trying to, in the interest of trying to get people to just kind of go out
But
there and play and make plays. So I think that's an interesting, opportunity with this team. And it just, again, it kind of speaks to every team is different. Every type of player is different, right? Again, we're not just taking points per game and stacking them up numerically. You're talking about how do these players and their skill sets fuse together, and they're trying to figure out the way to maximize that. So still some to figure out, and they've been throwing some wrenches as we've discussed with injuries and players not turning out to be as able to contribute as expected. But hey, they've got this Providence game on Saturday. It's, another opportunity there. It's going to be another Big East war, a game that means a lot to that fan base, as we all know, and it's a tough place to play. So even though Providence is really not good right now, are you familiar with how not good Providence is right now? They're
I don't.
6-11
I
in
don't
the
watch
conference,
Providence.
6-11 in the conference, and they've lost 6 of their last 7. But
Yeah.
look, UConn has that loss at Seton Hall. No reason to go into anything with too much confidence anymore that you can just show up and win a game. And again, they have something to play for here. So I think this
Yeah.
Saturday, we know that we have no idea what to expect still, but plenty on the line here in these last few games for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in the NCAA tournament. They should be in. But they're not locked in where if they say they lose their next 4 games, I think they lose their next 4 games, we might be seeing them in Dayton or out, right?
Yeah.
So they're not, they have work to do. They want to first get into the tournament, but then you don't want to back into the tournament either. You want to play well when you get in there. I hate playing at Providence. That place is always tough to play. The people are in a good, and I say this in a nice way to the Providence fan. They are nasty. Like they get cranky. They don't. They can be very upfront. I think Providence is the New England's Philadelphia. The people are not afraid to let you know how they feel about you. And it's just there's a toughness there, and I think I'm going to get arguments from a lot of people. That's UConn's biggest rival in basketball, in my sense. They're the players. You can take a drive there. It's not that far from Providence from stores. I like that they play. Providence loves to beat UConn. That's their year. So they're going to be ready. The crowd's going to be ready, and you got to be tough to play at whatever they call it this day. I call it the dunk still, but whatever they call it these days, the Providence Civic Center. It's good.
Yeah, we don't have to respect sponsors. They don't pay us a cent. So
I have no idea what it's called.
call whatever we want. That's fine. And hey, man, I'd be cranky too if I was rooting for the Providence Friars, for many years or decades. Um, But yeah, well, it will be certainly a good and interesting matchup, and balance of the season. A lot to play for there. And you're right; those people, it's you do have to hand it to them. It's a mean, nasty fan base.
It really is. It
Yeah,
really
yeah,
is. It's
yeah.
fun. You know
It's,
that's
it's
that's fair.
yeah.
I
Very
like to
happy to be
think
back in
of
the Big East.
yeah, yeah, no, like Boston and Providence are very similar, but Providence doesn't have the charm of Boston. So you get offended in Boston as part of the experience, and you remember it and cherish it. And then the same thing happens to you in Providence, and you're like, I'm so offended,
Yep.
So I just feel like Providence is Boston without the charm. Right, so it's the same thing. Philadelphia is New York without the charm. Like they treat the people the same. They're same, but one's Providence, one's Boston, one's New York, one's Philadelphia. So yeah, it's the Philadelphia of New England. So,
Interesting. That's very
yeah.
interesting. I'm a supporter of the Philly culture and lifestyle, and I think New Haven actually has a lot in common with Philly
Good Philly.
spiritually and company, but
Oh, good
different, yeah,
food.
different reasons. But yeah, good stuff. So yeah, that game's Saturday at noon from an unspecified arena inside of Providence. They've got, again, just to close out the season, only 3 games left. Home against Marquette. That's at Gamp Pavilion on Wednesday, and then on Saturday, March 8th, they'll close out the season with Seton Hall. We want to chat about what's been going on with UConn women's basketball as well here on the UConn Daily Podcast. We talked about their big win over Tennessee in a recent episode. Uh, the best development right now, John, that I want to bring up and discuss is the return of Caroline Ducharme. Uh, Unexpected in the middle of Saturday's game against Butler. She checked into the game about 2 minutes left. It was her first game in 461 days. The,
Wow.
the team had played 63 contests since without her, which was more than she had played in her entire career to date, which was 59. First game since November 2023 for Caroline Ducharme. She's been dealing with a litany of injuries, including concussions, which are, of course, to be taken very seriously. And, uh, just I think again, in college sports, especially with UConn basketball, we get really caught up in who's raising trophies, who's getting drafted, and all this stuff. Uh, could not be happier for Caroline Ducharme to get back on the court. Uh, Obviously, her career has not gone the way that she wanted it to, for reasons outside of her control. For the most part, and she's got to kind of find out what's next for her in life after basketball. Just like everyone does,
Mhm.
at some point, I had to figure out life after basketball myself at the age of 12. But it's just incredible to see her make a return, the support of the team, and again, just the reminder that some other things matter besides the top line accomplishments. That's a tremendous, you know, demonstration of resolve by her to get back on the court. She's a leader. She's really respected by her teammates. She's found a way to contribute even without playing on the court. So just huge shout out to Caroline Ducharme, and it was great to see her get back on the court.
Yeah, no, it's great. She's a tremendous player too. This is not a player that when they recruited, we were just it was a filler. She was part of that Paige Becker's class, and she was cleared as I think maybe the second best player, maybe the third best. But she was somebody who was going to be playing a lot and was going to score a lot of points here, either off the bench or probably as a starter. So her injuries, from the has affected the program. Not to the extent that AZ Fudd's and Paige Becker's injuries have over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, but not having her, really throws a monkey wrench into what they kind of do. Um, I just like to see her get back on the court because she's putting in the time, and I don't know what the medical clearances are, but if it was enough where it wasn't a risk to get her on the court, I think that's a nice reward for her. I think if she's fully cleared to play, can she play a role? Probably not. It's just so long. I mean, if she can, then it would be the greatest comeback I've ever seen. I'm just hoping that. I mean, as far as people coming back, it's nice to see you there. Maybe she gets an emotional lift, and then maybe they can get Aubrey Griffin, can get a part of the rotation because they can really use someone like that out there. But as you said, after they lost after they beat South Carolina and put a blowout on them, I don't think they're the favorites to win the cut down the nets, but I really think they're going to get into the Final Four this year. Again, I just they're starting to look confident again, and I think the more they play, they may have been figured out the physicality of some of the other teams. So we'll see. I think it's going to be dependent on the draw. I mean, if they're in there with USC, UCLA, whatnot, Notre Dame in that bracket, it's going to be tough. But maybe they get lucky. Maybe somebody picks off one of those teams, or they play somebody who's less physically imposing, especially on the inside. Yeah, because like if it's a game of basketball skill, UConn's going to win it. They have the best skill players in the country.
Yeah, yeah. And sorry, South Carolina. I can't believe I misspoke earlier when I was
Oh.
describing that win earlier. But yeah, that was their last chance to do something big. They did it. So we are allowed to maintain those high hopes. And yeah, there's something there. And yeah, with regards to Ducharme, being bringing something different to the team. Not sure about that as much as yeah, emotional lift, spiritual lift. Good for her again, great. And yeah, they'll take care of the Big East most likely with these final regular season games in the conference tournament. And we will see what happens. It'll be a very, very interesting NCAA tournament, possibly more interesting than whatever goes on with the men this season.
But I'd agree with that. Like I was watching the USC. I'm very high on USC. Juju Watkins, UCLA is excellent. I mean, we all saw Notre Dame what they did to UConn. I mean, who would have thought that? South Carolina, defending champs, they're a bit down. I thought they were going to be the best team all year, and then you have UConn. I mean, there's about five teams who you can make a really good case to win it. So one of those teams won't be there. I'm assuming when somebody's going to get knocked off. I don't think you'll get 4 number 1 seeds or 3 number 1s and a number 2. But this goes back to UConn. When they ruined basketball by winning those 4 in a row, they actually didn't ruin basketball. They elevated the level of play everywhere. And I think and Caitlin Clark has helped. Dawn Staley's helped. Because there was that void when Pat Summitt, retired, and it was just UConn for all those years. But now they want to play it in the I guess it's the Big Ten, USC, UCLA, but they want to play hoops on the West Coast. Tara Vanderveer is retiring, or I think she retired. But I think the sport is on the upswing talent wise. There's a lot more players out there than we used to. Like now, instead of 7 or 8 players, maybe there's 15 top players a year. And talent will start getting dispersed even a little more, especially with this NIL. Do you want less NIL, less playing time, more NIL, more playing time? I mean, come on, it's an easy choice. So it's good. It's a good sport. That's something I think the men's college basketball, because players are staying longer, has become a good sport again. And the women's basketball, really good sport. I think it's become a really good sport. Yeah.
Has been and is now super.
Yeah, it really is.
We'll
really
just
is.
end it with a shout out to Diana Taurasi. We'll talk about her in the next episode. I'm sure you've got some better stories, but we'll just shout out Diana Taurasi, who announced her retirement at the end of this episode. That's going to do it for us here at the UConn Daily. We'll be back on Monday with our next episode. Go ahead and check out our newsletter, our YouTube channel. We're up and running and excited to be covering the end of this season and talking about it on this show with you all. Thank you guys for watching.